Good morning, everyone. I don't think I really need to say anything anymore. I think Samira's just about covered everything that I could ever say. Samira, that was beautiful. She made me cry a couple of weeks ago when she did it in the other service, and I've cried again. So I think it's mission accomplished from Samira. Before I begin, I would just like to say thank you to all of you for having our young people in your service today. We've done a couple of youth days in the parallel service, but this is our first time for a long time taking the service in here, and you've welcomed them with open arms. Papa was so attentive to Samira, who was hanging on every single word. So it's a real pleasure to be with you today. And teenagers, once again, you absolutely astound me. You are so talented. We are so lucky to have you. The way you play and sing and speak is incredible. So thank you for giving your gifts to the glory of God this morning. Some of you may be very surprised to see me up here, and I will guarantee you're probably not as surprised as I was to be asked to be up here. Thank you, Pastor Jacques, for that one. Because I am not a master theologian, and I do not claim to be, so that's my disclaimer at the beginning of this. It's something I'll leave to generations of my family gone by. What I am, however, is a huge sports fan. If anybody knew me or my brother growing up, you would know that we never went anywhere without some form of ball or racket or bat. Unfortunately, that transpired in our parents spending far too many evenings in various accident and emergencies across the country. But we loved sport. We started playing hockey at the age of 4, thanks to Auntie Pat. We played school sport, we played secondary school sports. I then went on to study at university, and then again at masters. I lectured in it for a while, and now I work for Team GB. So I'm kind of living any sports fan's dream. So what I'm going to do this morning is talk to you about sport, because it's kind of the only thing I know anything about. The title of the talk this morning is Come in Unity. Come in unity. And what we're going to do, much like a netball pitch or an ice hockey game, is we're going to take it in threes and break it down word by word. So the first third is come. So it's nearly impossible to achieve anything in the sporting context if you don't first show up. And that sounds a bit silly, but how many people do you know that have won Olympic gold medals, Paralympic gold medals, a World Cup, a Commonwealth title by not showing up? It just doesn't happen. And there's this idea in marketing now, sports marketing, where gyms or fitness brands, clothing, Lycra, all these brands are saying, just show up. Not just do it anymore, that's old. Just show up. Because they realize that sometimes showing up is more difficult than actually doing the thing itself. Any of you that go to the gym will probably understand this. Getting yourself off the sofa, changing into your gym clothes, getting in the car and walking through the gym doors is often more difficult than actually running and lifting heavy things. And that's exactly how it is with our relationship with God. Sometimes we don't want to go and we don't want to come to him and experience his presence because we know that coming to him means leaving our worldly possessions behind, leaving temptations and negative relationships and grudges behind. And it can be really difficult. I don't know how many of you are golf fans. I know my dad is here, so there's at least one in the congregation. I personally find it the most boring thing in the world, but it's constantly on our TV along with cricket. So there's a competition in golf called the Ryder Cup. And the Ryder Cup is where the United States of America plays Europe. And at the moment, we're still part of that, so we play. And in 2012, the competition was held in Illinois in the United States. And the man of the moment was a young guy called Rory McIlroy. Now, he plays for Northern Ireland, so he was part of Team Europe. And with 5 minutes to go before his head-to-head against someone from the United States of America, Rory McIlroy was nowhere to be found. Now, this is a boy who is hounded by press and photographers and fans and screaming girls. How on earth do you lose him 5 minutes before one of the biggest moments in his career? He has assistants following him. He's got private security. How on earth do you lose a golfer? It transpired that he was in his room playing video games and thought he had an hour left until tee off. So he rushed to the tee with 5 minutes to spare, no practice time, hadn't eaten breakfast, was completely rushed, but thankfully got there on time and ended up winning the crucial point. Now, at the end of the whole Ryder Cup tournament, The score was 13.5 points to the USA, 14.5 points to Europe, which meant that one point that Rory McIlroy achieved was the difference between Team Europe winning and not. And that can sometimes be the case with church, can't it? Sometimes we're waiting for that one person to come and give of their talents and complete the jigsaw puzzle, because we're a team. And if one of us fails to show up, if one of us fails to do the job, the whole team fails. We can't be spectators in our relationship with God. We can't just sit back and watch other people do it and watch other people go while we sit down. Because spectators never win gold medals, and we want the gold. Second, third, in. So it's pretty common knowledge that athletes have quite grueling training schedules. And as someone that's studied sport, I kind of knew that going into my new role. But I absolutely underestimated how horrendous their lives are. We see them on TV, we see them on podiums, we see them earning obscene amounts of money, and we think they've got life so easy. Third day at my new job, I'm in Sheffield at our training centre up there, and I'm walking down the corridor and I see people like Dame Jessica Ennis-Hill, and I see Anthony Joshua, and I see the Paralympic table tennis champion, and I'm so excited. And then I walk past the gym and I see an athlete being picked up off the floor and put back on the bike to do another training session. I see someone else being sick in the corner because they've pushed their body to the absolute extreme. And I'm walking past the physiotherapy room and I hear squeals of pain. That has become the soundtrack to my job, unfortunately. I don't really bat an eyelid anymore, but it's still there. And what really hits home for me is these athletes aren't just doing their sport for a hobby. It's not a New Year's resolution they make once a year like I do, and a couple of weeks in January I go to the gym and then I can't be bothered anymore. They absolutely buy in and it becomes their lifestyle. Now, what if that was the case with our relationship with God? What if everything we did when we wake up, when we go to sleep, everything that encompasses our lives is God's lifestyle? Being an athlete is evidently hard work. It's not just a case of showing up and then going home. You have to put the effort in. Take Maddie Hinch, for example. Now, I'm a huge hockey fan, have been for years. You probably know that. Thanks to Auntie Pat. Last year, we won Olympic gold, and I cried in front of the television for about 20 minutes. It was a very emotional time, and we played the Dutch, who are widely considered to be the best team in the world. Now, it went to penalty shootouts. Goalkeeper versus player, best of 5, off you go. Maddie Hinch was in goal for us. Now, Maddie Hinch is widely considered to be one of the best hockey goalkeepers in the entire world. And instead of just doing her training schedule, back when she was training at Bisham Abbey, which is near Reading, every time there was a scheduled nap, every time there was a scheduled break, she would lock herself in this poxy little room we have at Bisham Abbey with one of our performance analysts, and she would go through tapes upon tapes upon tapes. There were stacks of the things of Dutch penalty shooters, because she knew there was just a slim chance that she might have to face them. She faced them, she saved 3 penalties, and we won Olympic gold. Turning up on the day was not enough for Maddie Hinch. She had to put the work in, she had to study hard, and she had to remain focused when the eyes of the world were upon her. But just because you buy into something and you work hard, it doesn't mean it's easy. Michael Phelps. Everyone knows who Michael Phelps is, right? He's the best swimmer ever, the greatest Olympian of all time, and a beautiful man. So Michael Phelps, back in his prime when he was Olympic champion, was swimming 80,000 meters a week. That's 50 miles of swimming a week. 6 hours, 6 days, plus physiotherapy, psychology, gym, press, all that kind of stuff. He was eating 12,000 calories a day. That's my dream. What is not my dream is 80,000 meters of swimming a week. It's just crazy. The key message here is that if you're not willing to go above and beyond, to push yourself to the limits and to feel physical, mental, emotional pain, you can't call yourself an athlete. You have to give every single part of you. It's the same in our relationships with God, is it not? Just like an athlete must buy into their sport, we must buy into him and totally commit with all we have. It's not simply enough to turn up. We have a responsibility, collectively and individually, to be consumed, to get stuck in and to work hard. And that can be painful. When we're having to work hard at something we find difficult, like forgiving that person that was horrible to us, that never apologized. Like letting go of that negative relationship and into family drama. It can really be horrible. But eventually, we reap the rewards. We achieve gold medals because we surrendered all that we have. Home straight. Unity. Culture is massive in sport. We spend a huge amount of time investing, investigating, measuring, evaluating culture. All of our resources at the moment are devoted towards this. Because we know that a positive culture can breed gold medalists. We also know that a negative, conflict-centered culture can bring everybody down. Now, did I just talk about sport, or did I talk about church? For a prime example in sport, take your mind back to the 2010 World Cup. France have always been a great footballing nation. Much pain is caused by me saying that. They've always been great, and in 2010 they had Patrice Evra, they had Franck Ribéry, they had really, really great players. And they were tipped to do quite well. Unfortunately, a little bit way through the group stages, there was a huge bust-up at their training ground. And it all got very dramatic, as it would only do with French footballers. And the French players refused to play for their manager. And the manager refused to coach the players. At the end of the tournament, France hadn't got out of the group stages, and the whole team had failed because they didn't have a good culture. Similarly, with football, I think there's a theme here. Balotelli, Mancini, hopefully these words will bring back images in your mind of them fighting each other, hands at the bibs, faces in each other's faces, being pulled apart by other players. They had this huge training ground bust-up. Mancini was fired, Balotelli was sold to AC Milan, and Man City bummed out that season. As a United fan, I'm not too bothered about that, but the message is, if we have a negative culture, if we allow conflict to bubble under the surface, it comes out and it destroys everything. So what we try to do in my job is we try to create a really positive culture. And that's what I spend my time doing at work. I have to create a positive culture. And there are a number of ways that we do this, particularly prior to an Olympic or a Paralympic Games. So one of the ideas we have is video montages. Now, before an Olympic or a Paralympic Games, our office just becomes full of montages. And a montage is when we have clips of different sporting achievements and events that are really inspirational for people. So we have pictures of Steve Redgrave winning his 5th Olympic gold medal. We have Kelly Holmes crossing the line with her hands in the air. It's normally set to some emotional music. It's normally Coldplay. I normally cry. It's a great time. And what we do is before they go out to the Olympic Games, we sit every athlete down and they watch this video. Not to get them emotional, but because we want them to understand what it means to be competing for Team GB. What does it mean to be an athlete for Team GB? What am I striving for? What's the point? This is the point. This is who's come before you. This is what we want you to do. And we also show them that before they compete, so that's really reinforced in their mind. And that's one of the reasons why we think we do so well at the Olympic Games. Another thing we do prior to an Olympic Games is we create our own supermarket. And stay with me here. What we do is we rent this massive sports hall in Loughborough. And we make an Aldi. Not a Waitrose, an Aldi. And what we do is we fill it with sportswear. It is my dream world. There is Lycra everywhere. I'm so happy when this time of year comes around. And what we do is we have someone meet the athletes as they enter the door, and they get given a shopping trolley. And they fill it with as much sportswear as they want. Never in my life have I wanted to be an athlete so much. They have trainers and leggings and hoodies and flip-flops and towels and anything you could ever want. But why do we do that? Because we could so easily just post them their kit, deliver it to their house, knock on the door and say goodbye. What we do is we give them the opportunity to try on their kit, to pose for photos that go on social media, to meet other athletes that they don't compete with, all to foster this identity of, hey, I'm part of Team GB, and I know exactly what that means. The clearest example for me of culture shift in sport was the women's hockey again. So in 2014, they played a competition at the Olympic Park in London. So home soil, they had a home crowd, they were tipped to do really well, they got a bronze medal at the London Games, they were considered to be an up-and-coming team. So with home support, they came 10th out of 11th teams. They were useless. But cast your mind back to last year, and only 2 years after that complete failure, they won Olympic gold. Now, the only thing that changed between 2014 and 2016 was a Thursday morning. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that if they're pretty useless at hockey, they should probably get on the pitch and practice hockey. And that would be the simple answer. But the right answer was to cancel training on a Thursday morning. Completely cancel it. And create what we call a talking Thursday. So what they did was they sat down and they hashed out, what are our values? What are our principles? Let's invest in our leaders. What are the behaviors that we consider to be positive, and what won't we stand for? They eradicated gossip. They changed their selection decisions. They repaired broken relationships of years gone by. And that was the only thing that changed between the complete failure of 2014 and the victory in 2016. So I ask you this, as my church congregation. What could we do if we reaffirmed our values? What could we do if we invested in our leaders? What could we do if we created a supportive culture where people can try things out and make mistakes without fear of being criticized? Something we call psychological safety. What could we achieve by moving on from old conflicts, personal vendettas, and family grudges? What could we achieve if we held ourselves responsible for our actions? Could we elevate ourselves from 11th place to first place? I wonder. So come in unity. Come in unity. As we have discovered, in order to win the ultimate prize, athletes must not only turn up, they must buy in wholeheartedly, and they must be unified in their goals. Only then can they contribute to the team goal, the community goal, to come in unity. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 24 to 27, if you've got your Bibles, please turn with me. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 24 to 27. Paul tells the reader, "Do you not know that in a race all runners run, but only one gets the prize? So run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes into the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating just the air. No, I beat my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize." So in this passage, Paul is clearly telling us to run in such a way as to get the everlasting prize, not to run aimlessly. And we now know what it takes to get that everlasting prize. Just as in the case of athletes, not only must we show up to the Lord, we must buy into our relationship with him completely. And we must be unified amongst ourselves so that we can achieve our ultimate goal, which is to know Christ, but to make him known. And maybe once we've started doing these three things, we can conclude like Timothy did. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. May God add his blessing to our worship service this morning. Your prayer.